Welcome to Daylight. Today is April 6th, 2026. We start with today's news overview. Tensions between the U.S. and Iran escalate dramatically after President Trump issues a strident ultimatum. Tehran firmly rejects the conditions for reopening the strategic Strait of Hormuz as tensions flare with neighboring Israel. Drone strikes in Haifa leave civilians dead, and widespread Russian strikes result in massive power outages sweeping across Ukraine. In a shocking turn, a wheat cargo ship has sunk off Kherson due to potential drone attacks, raising fresh alarms. As we examine these headlines closely, we uncover the complex web of geopolitical strife that continues to shape our world. Initial reports emerge from Iran, where President Donald Trump's ultimatum has dramatically heightened tensions. Following a series of brazen military actions by U.S. and Israeli forces, Trump threatened Iran with devastating consequences if the country fails to comply with demands to reopen the crucial Strait of Hormuz, a waterway through which approximately 20% of global oil supply flows. Iranian officials have roundly condemned these threats, dubbing them as incitement to war crimes and warning of severe retaliation if American aggressions persist. This fiery rhetoric comes in the wake of multiple attacks on Iranian soil, which have reportedly claimed the lives of at least 34 individuals in recent weeks, sparking further communal unrest. Strategically, the U.S. military has ramped up operations in the region, overtly threatening to target critical Iranian infrastructure, including power plants and bridges, after their unilateral control over the Strait of Hormuz. The international community remains vigilant as analysts fear that if military tensions unless calms, the repercussions could ripple throughout global economic structures, especially as the U.S. and allies press for a revision of Iranian military influence. Observers caution that the escalating violence may not only destabilize Iran, but could further destabilize regional relationships with countries reliant on the maritime route for their energy security. Commentaries from global leaders echo the alarm raised by Iran, as U.S. actions are examined under the lens of international law regarding military conflict. Iranian representatives have stated that there would be no concessions on their operations in Hormuz until the global community recognizes their demands for compensation rooted in the damages incurred during the conflict. Such pronouncements signal a potential stalemate emerging, dragging diplomatic entities deeper into the fray as they attempt to broker peace amidst one of the most tumultuous periods in recent history. Concurrently, the impact of the military engagement has hit home, literally, in Israeli cities like Haifa, where recent attacks have left civilians scrambling for cover. Reports indicate that at least 2 individuals, including a child, were killed as a result of these escalated strikes amidst retaliations against Iranian positions. Israeli forces have maintained that these operations are intended to thwart imminent threats, yet the collateral damage among civilian populations is raising serious concerns regarding the legality and ethics of current military strategies. Human rights organizations are calling for investigations into the civilian casualties as mounting pressures force Israeli governance to justify their military engagements. Among community leaders, there is a growing demand for accountability and a push towards addressing humanitarian fallout from these aggressive maneuvers. The latest incidents underscore a tragic cycle of violence that not only embroils combatants in battle, but engulfs innocents, further complicating peacekeeping efforts across the turbulent region. As national leaders grapple with the fallout from these incidents, public sentiment remains understandably tense, as civilians voice their fears regarding continued military interventions. Around the Black Sea, Ukraine remains under siege from heavy Russian airstrikes, leading to devastating consequences for civilian life. Recent statistics indicate that over 340,000 residents in northern Ukraine's Chernihiv Oblast faced power outages following relentless strikes against energy infrastructure overnight, leaving homes darkened. With bitter temperatures still hanging over the country, the latest assaults compound an already tense humanitarian crisis, triggering warnings from local officials about impending disasters should infrastructural resilience falter. A report from the Ukrainian military notes a staggering number of aerial assaults, with numerous attacks targeting key urban centers. leading to casualties and injuries among civilians. This ongoing conflict continues to spur widespread condemnation from international observers, who plead for immediate measures to safeguard civilian lives and provide essential support to those suffering from the fallout of this war. An analysis of the military body count suggests aggressive tactics employed by Russia aimed at breaking Ukrainian morale, while simultaneously threatening broader European stability. A separate troubling incident unfolds off the shores of Kherson, where a cargo ship laden with wheat has reportedly sunk, with state media attributing the disaster to a drone attack carried out during the ongoing conflict. Reports indicate that 9 crew members were rescued, although tragic news surfaced regarding the death of 1 crew member during the evacuation. The geopolitical implications of disrupted maritime operations make this incident particularly salient, as critical waterways fall victim to escalating military engagements. Navigating through this sphere of chaos is challenging, particularly as nations reliant on shipments grapple with food security issues stemming from such disasters. With the global agricultural supply chain already strained under the demands of COVID-19 and ongoing hostilities, the threat posed to maritime infrastructure represents another critical layer to the unfolding crises that policymakers have begun to weigh against their broader strategic interests. In Vietnam, the impacts of the Iranian conflict have driven up fuel prices, choking gig workers who form the backbone of the nation's ever-growing e-hailing economy. Reports highlight that diesel prices have doubled amid an effective blockade of the Strait of Hormuz, significantly affecting transportation capabilities. Many gig workers are forced to weigh costs against their income, with some drivers deactivating their apps in protest against surging prices, while families are pushed to make tough decisions about work and livelihoods. These rising prices have prompted Vietnamese authorities to announce a series of emergency measures aimed at stabilizing the economy, though analysts stress that these measures may offer only temporary relief. The ongoing challenges to fuel sourcing and price fluctuations reflect a broader impact of global conflicts on domestic economies, while underscoring vulnerabilities faced by workers without labor protections. Across the continent, allegations surfaced concerning possible Ukrainian involvement in the discovery of explosives near the Turk Stream pipeline in Serbia, leading to heightened diplomatic tensions as the country attempted to distance itself from the incident. Hungarian officials have hinted at potential Ukrainian responsibility in what they deem an attempt to manipulate energy dynamics in favor of Western interests. The statements emerged from a backdrop of fragile relations shaped by historical grievances and ongoing conflicts, prompting Ukrainian representatives to categorically deny such claims and assert they are part of a Russian propaganda strategy. As the dialogue between these nations spirals further into mutual distrust, the implications for regional pipeline security and energy transportation loom large, raising fears of a spiral into escalating hostilities in Europe. In a critical demand, Iran's naval command announced that the Strait of Hormuz will remain closed until they are compensated for perceived war damages. The importance of this waterway cannot be understated. It's a global artery for oil transport. Iranian leadership's posture signals a shift in geopolitical leverage, while oscillating negotiations circulate around the potential for peace talks between the U.S. and Iran. Thus far, U.S. officials have displayed skepticism regarding Tehran's willingness to come to the table without substantial economic considerations. Compounding these developments, regional stakeholders have begun weighing the longer-term implications of Iran's military blockade on global oil dynamics, with some suggesting that the conflict could catalyze shifts in energy market dependencies as countries explore alternative suppliers and routes. This tightening of geopolitical tensions signifies an urgent need for stakeholders to address not just the immediate crisis, but systemic issues surrounding energy security in an increasingly volatile region. A parallel narrative develops in Hungary, where government officials are hinting at potential Ukrainian involvement in alleged sabotage incidents targeting pipelines across Serbia, an allegation firmly refuted by Ukrainian spokespeople as unfounded. Reports have emerged indicating a wider geopolitical narrative here, where Hungary's foreign minister recently scheduled meetings to connect these incidents with broader discussions around Europe's dependence on Russian energy. The dynamics at play lean toward potentially reshaping the course of energy stability within Central Europe, as regional leaders approach conversations about energy diversification and long-term strategies to counteract supply vulnerabilities from Russian sources. Efforts to establish trust and foster collective energy resilience are of paramount importance, as Eastern Europe navigates increasing pressures from outside aggression amid rising tensions. Amid these tumultuous events, reports consolidate a diplomatic effort involving Iran and the United States to negotiate a framework for reducing hostilities, with plans being put forward for an immediate ceasefire. The Islamabad Accord may present a potential pathway for de-escalation after weeks of violence that have ravaged lives and livelihoods across the region. While officials in both capitals remain cautious, there is hope that the framework may lead to improved diplomatic relations and pave the way for a more stable future in the region. Observers indicate that should such agreements be successfully operationalized, they could initiate greater cooperation among regional actors aimed at balancing power dynamics and enhancing economic interdependencies across interconnected nations. As troubling developments unfurl across military fronts, the urgent need for humanitarian interventions cannot be overstated, as civilian casualties and economic distress mount amidst armed conflicts. Organizations report dramatic increases in essential needs, with calls for international support to assist those most severely impacted by pervasive violence across both the Iran conflict and in Ukraine. The interconnected crises stand as a stark testament to the immediate humanitarian costs of warfare, demanding comprehensive responses that seek not only restitution for those affected, but long-lasting solutions that stabilize regions and affirm the rights of vulnerable groups. As narratives evolve, a responsive strategy embracing both humanitarian aid and conflict mitigation emerges as an essential priority in the bid for sustainable peace. As we conclude today's coverage, understanding the interplay of these unfolding narratives is critically important as we work toward engaging in informed discourse regarding potential resolutions to conflicts and their economic ramifications worldwide. And now for today's reality check. We are witnessing the ultimate weaponization of geography. From the Strait of Hormuz, where a blockade is currently suffocating gig workers all the way in Vietnam, to the Black Sea, where a sunken wheat ship threatens global food security. The battlefields are no longer confined to Haifa or Kherson. They are in the fuel pumps and supply chains of the entire world. As ultimatums fly between Washington and Tehran, the global economy is essentially being held hostage. That is the reality of the board today. Thank you for tuning in to Daylight, and we will see you next time.